Welcome to this edition of the Million Dollar Mastermind podcast. This is where we pick the brains of high achievers from all walks of life and get their hard-earned, real-world insights on winning. I'm your host, Larry Weidel. I'm here with Manuj Agarawal. Is that right?
Yeah.
I got it right. And so thanks for joining us. And let's have some fun this afternoon talking about winning. And where are you today?
I'm in Vancouver, Canada.
Vancouver. And have you been up skiing up there in Whistler?
I've been there many times, but I haven't gone skiing. I grew up in India. The first time I saw snow was when I was like 23. So I have heard too many horror stories of people, getting injured with the skiing. So I stay away from it. But I do enjoy some winter sports with my kids. I have two kids, so we just go there, have fun.
Yeah. Don't hold back from the skiing because of those horror stories.
Yeah.
Because all you got to do is get some lessons and take it, slow, one step at a time. But you can have a ball, especially where you're up there.
I hear you.
That location, plus your kids would just go crazy,
Yeah.
But why are you living in Vancouver?
Most stories start and end with following a girl. So I followed a girl to Vancouver from India. So,
wow, does that happen often?
A lot of people
girls go to Vancouver.
No, she was actually she was of Indian origin, but she was actually born in Vancouver. So we met in India and then we moved to Canada.
Now let's just talk about you. When you growing up, what kind of kid were you? Were you a motivated kid? Were you troublemaking? Were you a bookworm? Technically oriented. What kind of kid were you?
So my story is that, I used to work in a factory. I started my career at 15 working in a factory for $2 a day. And I wanted to do something different with my life. And that led me down many different rabbit holes. So I was all of the above. I was a bookworm. I was rebellious. And I was kind of a weird person talking about things that nobody understood. And they said, there is no way you can do these kind of things. And now I'm, like 30 odd years later, I'm one of the top experts in AI. And, I talk to people like you. So that has been, a story of my life back in India.
And when you started reading books, kids read books, they read biographies, they read novels. What kind of books got your attention got you excited?
So weirdly enough, first of all, it was all the superhero comics, and these were Indian versions of the superheroes, and they was quite interesting. So it sparked an interest about science in me because all these superheroes had all these cool gadgets, and they could do things, walk through the walls, and destroy like planets and whatnot. And I was like, oh man, science can do so much. So that got me interested in science, and then. Another thing happened was one of my early girlfriends, she was interested in spirituality. And so that got me interested in spirituality. I read a lot of spiritual books. I couldn't really understand much of it, but the gist of it I got sounded very intriguing. So I started down this path of, learning science and this metaphysical world and sort of, having these different ideas come together in my head.
So you move from a $2 a day working in a factory, starting up, and since progressed. It reminds me of myself. I started working on the beach, the American beach in the Mediterranean. My father was with the Air Force, and so I was in high school, but probably about the age you were. Mm-hmm. But we were, let's see, mine was 50 cents an hour on the beach. Yeah. And, you don't have a big skill set to go out there and command a lot of big income. But, you got to start somewhere. But you immediately start, even in a factory, you started learning lessons, I bet. I mean, you started observing. You're getting
Absolutely.
around people. Things are happening. You're doing things. You're seeing how people are responding. You're seeing if you can improve. And things start to take shape in your mind, even in a $2.
Absolutely.
And can you think back to that experience? How long did that last?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a very, as you said, it was a very foundational experience, because in the factory, we used to manufacture industrial fasteners. There used to be very, very tight specification, because these fasteners, they go into very heavy machinery, bridges, and everything. So you have to comply with very strict specifications, and so you have to maintain quality, and you have to maintain quality at scale. So you don't manufacture one of this, you manufacture like 10,000 a day. And so that foundation of like building scale, building large quantity of stuff at very high scale with precision, is what I started gathering more and more. And then, as you said, like talking to people, like how do you get a product from a raw material to a finished product? There is so much happening in between, so much happening. And
Yeah,
so
right, right.
I got to learn all that, sort of how all the pieces they fit. And you still have daily problems. This broke down, that guy didn't show up, like all these problems are happening, and still you're making profit, you're making things happen. So that was a foundational piece that I learned, really, like how to make things happen, basically, because most people just give up on the second try, third try, or even on the first try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like I was talking with Eric before we got started here with his art career. I think he gave up too early. But
Mm.
the you really, we just it's just dawning on me. Why are why do comic books have such a bad rap? It seems like if you get kids focusing on superheroes, being somebody special, doing something, doing great things with your life, having a lot of great friends, and developing special powers. What's so bad about that? And then going out there in the world, the thing is like doing things to help the world, save the world, and teamwork. I just don't know what's so bad about the superhero
Absolutely,
thing.
absolutely. I think it's our education system, designed for learning math, learning physics, learning like the skills that will actually pay. But I think the economy has already shifted now. We are already in a gig economy. We are all already in like a creator economy. So I think those paradigms are slowly dissolving for sure.
Yeah. And then you go in as far as your education and kind of setting yourself up for the life you've had. You go in the factory, you see volume, you see high volume, you see scale, you see processing of raw materials and the steps, and that, you don't, if you start with dirt, you just don't have to keep dirt. You can turn dirt into all kind of precious minerals and all kind of substances. There's just no limit,
Yeah, exactly.
And, even concrete, right now they've just figured out what the Romans figured out about how to make concrete so strong.
Yeah.
And they figured that out at it came when they built the Colosseum, but
Absolutely.
and basically they heated it when they dried it, made it dry faster, but it made it a lot stronger. But even with things like concrete, we're still learning, we're still developing. And as you grow up and you see these things, you're face to face with it, and you see it at a high volume, you can still produce large numbers no matter what kind of it's like if you're in entertainment, things, the star breaks their leg. Well, the first thing you learn, the show's got to go on.
Yeah, exactly.
You learn that in a factory, so-and-so happened, we ran out of this. But hey, the show's going on. At the end of the day, we've got to have 10,000 of those fasteners, done. And you learn how to adapt, be creative, solve problems, and also people situations. Did you get into teamwork and leadership? Did you get
Absolutely.
the taste of that in the factory?
Oh, yeah. Both on the good side and the bad side. Good side on how to build relationship, how to get people to do things. On the bad side is like, hey, if you don't have a good attitude, nobody's gonna freaking listen to you. So, like one time I remember, like I was trying to be bossy, and I told the people around me, hey, you can't do this. So the first day they didn't say anything. The next day they were like, okay, you know, they were supposed to work until 7 p.m. or something. They just stopped working at 5 p.m. They're like, we're not gonna take this attitude. I'm like, what the hell happened? So
Yeah.
so I learned, how to talk to people. I mean, you know what? As you said, like you never learn how to talk to people. So people are the toughest nut to crack. But that was the first time I was like taken aback by, hey, I need to mind what I say and how I say it.
Yeah. And how old were you at this stage?
I was like about 17, maybe.
Yeah.
17, yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who are sick and tired of fooling around and are dead serious about wanting to move up fast, I've got something especially for you. I've combined the best insights from over 40 years in business and making $70 million in income and compressed them into a free webinar. That's right, it's a free resource. If you want to find out exactly what the concepts are that I use in coaching million-dollar earners, register now at WeidelOnWinning.com. You'll discover the 5-part framework used by so many to reach their financial, personal, and professional goals. You can find that link in this episode's show notes.
And, that's growing up. It's just like when my boys were growing up, I was not real hard on them about that because I figured life was going to be so hard on them and teaching them so many lessons that, I didn't really need to worry about teaching them all of the hard lessons,
Yeah, true.
Life is a great teacher. And so what was your, you said AI is the area you're working in now, which is taking the guesswork. What I see with the robotics and what Elon Musk is doing with Tesla and the big factories, it's just amazing. The robotics at work in that plant that you take the guesswork out of it. That's what, you're taking, you're breaking the skill down to a repetitive process, and then you take the guesswork out of it, and then you can automate it.
Yeah.
But the first thing is to get it in your mind that a leader can do, or a problem solver, an inventor, whatever can do, is break things down into the sequences, the steps, and then take each step seriously. And it was a great orientation for you early on, where you said you saw the development, how they went from the raw material and processed into the final thing.
Absolutely.
And so, and then you make that into a system, and then you get a machine to do it,
Yeah.
And so, the thing about the robotics is, even with Elon Musk, he's got a zillion robots out there. I forget how many robots working, but he also got a lot of people working too. And so it's not that you're putting people out of work. You got to have the abundance mindset that, all the, jobs we can offload onto robotics are jobs that you can pretty much be sure are going to get done reliably at a high volume at a low cost, which opens up other worlds. And it may not open it up tomorrow, but it's, eventually it creates bigger opportunities and higher payer opportunities for the people who can do more than a robot can do.
Exactly.
And so talk about how you progressed out of that factory and what you were thinking and what opportunity came that allowed you to make a move.
Yeah. So the thing that triggered.
And by the way, Manuj, let me. Can I tell everybody you went from the $2 a day to the boardroom of Fortune 500 companies in Canada, Silicon Valley, Europe. You've been with Microsoft, IBM. You've mentored founders and CEOs of dozens of startups, helped raise seed capital from anywhere from 200,000 up to 10 million. You've written 2 best-selling technical books and authored over 75 courses with over 180,000 students, and you've got your own show, Bootstrapping Your Dreams, which is over 300 episodes. So congratulations on all of that. And in addition to that, you've got 4 patents in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and so and on and on and on. And the solution was praised by both Barack Obama and Bill Gates, and that had to be a thrill for you to get that kind
absolutely.
of
Absolutely. It has been a really exciting life. I don't complain. And I mean, it's still I'm still amazed at how it happened. When you're going through it, obviously you have no idea what the next day is going to bring, and there's a lot of more. I mean, 90% of his perspiration, always stressed out over things, and the 10% are the days where you get to see, okay, what have you done in the rest of the 90% of the days. It has been an amazing ride. I've made a lot of impact with the solution. That's what sort of excites me less. More than my own, success and all that. It's more about how many people I've been able to help using the solutions that I've built. More than 10 million people have been impacted by that. So to answer your question, what actually happened was, one day sitting in the factory at lunch hour, I was going through some business magazines, and in those business magazines, I saw these success stories of these tycoons, multimillionaires and billionaires, and I was like, these people look like me. They have the same body, they have the same mind. Like, what's so different about them? And of course, that was like a pipe dream. I was like, okay, yeah, man, like get back to lunch, get back to work. But then that was the trigger where I said, hey, if these people can do it, then anybody should be able to do it. So then I started thinking, okay, what do I have? Like, I have got nothing, and then this was 1995, and the first computer institute opened up in my city. It was a very small city. So first computer institute opened up, and I was like, man, I've been reading about this, like science, technology. The computer seems to be really interesting. I want to learn about them. And I found out that, the fee was more than my year's salary. I couldn't afford it. So I went back the next year. I saved up some money and did some hanky-panky stuff to collect that money. And then next year I enrolled, and I just fell in love with computers. And I was like, okay, this is exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. And from there, then onwards, basically, I've been like just getting deeper and deeper into computers. Any new technology that comes out, blockchain, machine learning, AI, I dive into it. And the interesting thing is, like, when you are always pushing yourself, you find yourself involved in projects where these technologies are used. And the companies you mentioned, IBM, Microsoft, all these companies, they work at the cutting edge. So they want to, find people who work at the cutting edge. And then the other thing is, my sort of interest in spirituality and serving the humanity always brings me to projects which actually, they are more than technology. They're like, how do you improve healthcare? How do you improve education? How do you improve the living standard of people? So when you combine that, that's when you have such a big impact. That's what I realize now, that it's less about making money. It's less about building technology. It's about what can you do with your skill to impact most people. And then when you do that, that's when, you get to experience all these things that you mentioned.
Yeah. And when you're starting to address universal problems that are not defined by countries or ages or race, it's like the problems everybody has. Yeah. And that, again, with the spirituality, is the problem of the heart. The heart inside everyone is the same. Yeah. And that the heart will not change. You talk about evolution and things like that. Your heart is not evolving. You know what I'm saying? It's like your mindset, your all of that stuff. And so that you go to people around the world, you'll start talking with them, and you make a connection, and you'll say they're not so different than I am. And so when you go into problem solving, if you're able to, and again, you have to be into it, like you're into the computer, you're into this world. And what that does is allow you to recognize patterns and solutions quicker, where connect dots. Basically, that's what innovators do. They connect dots, but they're able to connect dots because they missed dots, so many times, like, okay, I've tried all those don't connect. Oh, that connects. Voila. And so you don't roll out of bed just connecting the right dots.
Yeah, exactly.
You're somebody who's obsessed with finding the answer to that and fascinated by it, So what would you say, one thing that I would be sure of as I was growing up is that I would never say I was fascinated about computers. That would not be, sports, anything with people, with teams, competition, fascinating. That would be fun. But there was something about the computers that just grabbed your mind. What was it?
The thing is, as you said, most of my friends, guy friends, they were into sports. They were into more the typical things that you associate with young guys. I was not a very strong person physically. I was not good at sports. I wanted to play sports, but then nobody will pick me in their team because they'll be like, hey,
Right.
we don't have to pick the loser there, and then so as a young person, you tend to gravitate towards what you really you can build your clout on. Basically, you can say, okay, I'm really good at this, right? So I found that computers played well because they didn't talk back. They didn't they didn't complain. You tell them to do something, they do it. And so when I started doing that, people started asking me questions, asking, hey, how did you do this? What did you do? So that brought more sort of, a pride, if you will. So it was like a sport. You can say it was like a sport that I was good at. It was just not physical sport. So that's what attracted me towards it. And then the other thing is, I really saw the potential of what the technology could do because I came from this very manual labor background, where people have to really grind for hours and hours and hours to make $2, right? And now here is technology which can do so many things, and all it takes is like a few seconds of instructions and it will do it flawlessly. So I saw the humongous gap between what the human condition is and what technology can do, and I think that what sort of really got me into it.
Thanks for listening to the Million Dollar Mastermind. If you felt there were any valuable takeaways from this episode, please take a minute and leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback is important and really helps us get the word out to a wider audience. Remember, we have a valuable webinar that is absolutely free. Register for it right now at weidelonwinning.com. Thanks for listening.